Lorraine, what gave you the idea to see if the church could learn something from the study of workplace bullying?
The 2008 Dignity at Work report of the Archbishop's Council has references to bullying being rare. I wondered what rare meant and what evidence there was for saying this. I found out this was more of an assumption than anything else. I then became concerned that if an organisation assumed bullying was rare, it may not be best placed to address any bullying that was present. There had also been some publicity for the issue around bullying being rife in the Church of England, with Unite writing to bishops and asking them what they were going to do about it. So my work was in part a diocesan response to this question. I thought if we don't know whether it's rare or rife, let's measure it and compare it to other workplaces.
And were you comfortable comparing the experience of clergy in the Church of England to people working in another workplace?
I think that the comparison is helpful in understanding the prevalence of bullying in the church. If some people think there can't be bullying because the church is a place of love and others think there may be a shameful level of bullying, then seeing how we stand against other occupations fills out the picture.
And what did you find out? Was bullying rare or rife in the diocese you studied?
In a sense, neither. I found that the levels of bullying clergy experienced in the course of their ministry were broadly similar to experiences in the British workplace, where around 10% of employees describe experiences that are likely to indicate serious bullying. The difference with the church context was in the people who never experienced any of the behaviours that might amount to bullying. Across other workplaces, 50% of people were not experiencing any negative behaviour. For the clergy in the study, that was only 40%. So roughly the same amount of bullying as everyone else, but more random bad behaviour around.
There are a couple of terms you are mentioning where I think there can be a problem of definition. How do you work with the definitions of bullying?
There is a problem around defining bullying because there is no legal definition in British employment law to use as a reference. However, there are a couple of approaches used by people that work in the area. Some definitions involve a person intending to harm another. If you think of conversations you have been part of in the past, perhaps you have heard someone excuse behaviour by saying that the hurt wasn't intended, or someone didn't understand the effect of their behaviour. Intent is a bit of a dead end in practical situations because we rarely know people's deeper motives. Another approach can be based on the impact that actions have. This gets around the problems associated with intent, but it brings its own problems. Sometimes a target of negative behaviour will say, "Oh, that's just their way, things are fine, really." Or conversely, somebody may think that the target is sensitive and overreacting. Also, the language around intent still sneaks in. If an example of a bullying behaviour is deliberately withholding information, then in the word deliberately, there is a link back to intent. Our problems with definitions based both on intent and impact have the potential to be used together so that almost everything is not bullying. It's not deliberate, so it's not bullying. It's not hurting anyone, so it's not bullying. If we think of bullying in the church as a taboo behaviour, then there are some strong unconscious motivations for thinking what we are seeing or doing or experiencing isn't bullying. It's not the problem it might be, because I would like to suggest a third way. The worst way to deal with bullying is to wait until you are sure some sort of definition is met. The third way is to address the behaviour rather than spending too much time wondering what you're going to call it. You can do this by focusing on negative acts as indicators that there is a risk of bullying. A simple guideline is that if at least 2 different negative acts are experienced weekly over a period of 6 months, then there is a very high risk that bullying is present. This opens the possibility that people can be encouraged to address negative acts as soon as they start to happen. And if the situation hasn't been resolved 6 months later, then there is a very strong indication that bullying may be present.
Why are you calling them negative acts rather than bullying behaviours?
The presence of negative acts alone does not immediately point to bullying. It avoids labelling people in ways that might make problems harder to resolve. Labelling someone as a bully makes it very hard to return to a normal working relationship. If negative acts are not part of a long-term pattern of behaviour, they are unlikely to be considered bullying from a workplace bullying perspective. It might still be unacceptable behaviour that needs a response, but not bullying.
What do you see as the advantage to this approach?
If we are more familiar with the full range of negative acts, then I believe there is a better basis for tackling bullying from all sides. Firstly, monitoring our own behaviour. Perhaps we need to draw an issue to someone's attention, but probably not by email and probably not every week for 6 months. If you are earnestly trying to help someone improve, then remember that human beings can be overwhelmed by repetitive, long-running criticism. Knowledge of the negative acts also helps people consider more objectively if there is a risk they are being bullied. Spotting negative acts early opens up the possibility of changing patterns of behaviour before they are ingrained. If you are asking a person to stop a behaviour early on, that's an easier and potentially more productive conversation than waiting until you are sure you are being bullied and then asking them to stop. Lastly, this approach can help witnesses to be aware that negative acts can lead to bullying and act early. If everybody knows what the negative acts are, then someone behaving badly can read disapproval from witnesses. This gives them a chance to moderate their behaviour in the future.
So to finish, what do you think an emphasis on negative acts and the risk of bullying brings?
Attention to negative acts rather than bullying itself can help conversations happen earlier. This gives time for more of a problem-solving approach. Can conflict management help? Would some leadership strategies help? Is there an emotional struggle that might respond to counselling? These have their best chance of working early on. Attention to negative acts also brings greater understanding of the ways people might be bullied. Within the diocese I studied, the most common negative acts were largely passive. People were more likely to ignore someone than shout at them. If people have a picture of bullying that only involves acts with a physical dimension, then they can miss what's going on. The top 4 negative acts were someone withholding information necessary for your work, being ignored or excluded, having your opinions ignored, or being exposed to an unmanageable workload. These are easily missed if your picture of bullying is confined to shouting, name-calling, offensive emails and violence. Widespread awareness of the negative acts gives us the opportunity to raise the bar on our interpersonal skills, something we should all take seriously as Christian people.
Thank you.